Have you ever felt like someone was standing right behind you? No footsteps, no voice, just a cold gaze cutting through the darkness. Don't look away, because you're about to hear 3 true stories about what comes for us when we believe we're truly alone. A boy faces room 207, a room no one rented, but its light flickers on. At 3 a.m., a young woman stalked to her bedroom window by someone who never leaves a footprint, and a teenager hears knocking at 11 p.m. from visitors who should not be there. If you think you're safe, think again. Let's begin. The town of Renfield was buried under a rare snowstorm in the middle of December. Rooftops were blanketed with thick white cotton, and the streets lay deserted as if no soul had ever lived there. On the edge of town, the Silver Pines Inn nestled quietly beside a pine forest, its yellow light flickering from an old wooden sign, like a whisper calling out to the lost. Nathan Harper, 16 years old, was curled up in a cracked leather chair behind the reception desk, a laptop on his lap, replaying an old video game from before the days when the internet became too fast. His mother had left for her hometown earlier that morning to attend his grandmother's funeral. "Just one night," she told him. "Lock everything. Don't go upstairs. Check the cameras for me." And he had done all of that. Almost. There were only 2 rooms occupied. One was by an old hunter who had gone to bed by 8 p.m., and the other was by a woman named Lorraine, who always looked drunk, staying in the last room down the north hallway. Other than that, the inn was empty. Or it was supposed to be. Around 11 p.m., as Nathan was about to shut down his laptop and head to bed, a loud noise, like metal slamming against concrete, echoed from the back of the building. Quick and sharp, it made him jump. He stood up, heart pounding. The sound had come from the storage room, one that his mother always kept locked. Grabbing the baseball bat stored in the cabinet, Nathan crept into the hallway, the ceiling bulb flickering like a scene from a cheap horror movie. When he reached the room, the storage door was wide open, its rusted hinges groaning in the draft. Inside, it was pitch black. No one was there. He slowly stepped back, closed the door, and bolted it tightly. But as he turned to go back inside, something tiny, very subtle, made Nathan stop in his tracks. The air. It had changed. Nathan returned to the front desk with an odd sensation, as if something had just left, or just entered. He turned the hallway light back on, locked the front door, and then sank into the chair, pretending to focus on the TV while listening. His ears became unnaturally sharp at times like these. His mother used to call it the defensive instincts of someone who lives alone. Everything was quiet for a while. Then, creak. The wooden floor let out a soft groan, so faint, yet so distinct, it took his breath away. It came from upstairs, where the old guest rooms lined the narrow hallway, with room 207 sitting at the end. According to the booking log, that room wasn't occupied. "Maybe it's Lorraine," Nathan whispered, but he dismissed the thought immediately. She was on the ground floor, and the old hunter had been asleep for hours. Besides, that wasn't a normal footstep. It was too light, yet still heavy enough to make the floorboards moan, as if someone was walking very slowly, considering each movement with care. Without turning on any lights, he silently picked up the baseball bat and walked toward the stairs. The air had shifted into something vague, like someone was hiding just behind a thin veil of atmosphere. He could feel it, but couldn't see it. The stairs creaked with every step. Nathan remembered what his mom once said. "Sounds like the house is breathing, doesn't it?" She had laughed then. He wasn't laughing now. When he reached the upper hallway, he saw a dim light glowing faintly through the gap beneath the door of room 207. That wasn't possible. He had checked. Every unoccupied room had its power shut off. He stood frozen for a moment, heart pounding, palms slick with sweat. A thought struck him, drying out his throat. Something came into the house while I was outside checking the storage room. Nathan crouched down, kneeling outside room 207. The door was open just a few inches, wide enough to see the floor inside, and there, clearly, unmistakably, were two bare feet. They stood motionless, facing inward. The toenails were long, dirty, and the arches of the feet curved unnaturally, as if they weren't fully touching the ground. Nathan found he couldn't breathe. That wasn't a guest. It couldn't be a guest. That was something else. A chill shot down his spine. Without thinking, without looking back, Nathan sprang to his feet and bolted down the stairs, his legs skipping steps as if the floor behind him were crumbling away. He dashed into the restroom next to the reception desk, slammed the door shut, locked it, and collapsed to the cold tile floor, back against the wall, listening. Nothing. Only the sound of something waiting. A dim yellow light fell across the cracked tile floor. The chill from the bathroom wall seeped through Nathan's thin sweater, making him shiver in waves, though he wasn't sure if it was from the cold or from something else. The thing lurking just beyond the door. He picked up his phone. The scratched screen seemed to breathe along with him. His finger hovered, then pressed his mom's number. No answer. Once. Twice. 3 times. He considered leaving a message, but what would he say? I'm scared. There's someone upstairs? If you get this message? Eventually, he switched to calling 911. The dispatcher's voice came softly, as if drifting in from another dimension. Nathan whispered, trying not to disturb whatever it was. There's someone in the inn. I'm at Silver Pines Inn, alone. Did you see the person? Just feet, bare, under the door of room 207. Silence stretched for the length of a single breath, but it felt like 100 years. Police are on the way. Don't say anything else. Stay put. Don't open the door. And whatever you do, don't make a sound unless absolutely necessary. But it came too late, because the moment Nathan set the phone down on the floor, he heard footsteps, slow, measured, 1 step at a time. They stopped right outside the bathroom door. Nathan held his breath. The baseball bat lay at his feet, but it was useless. He knew, truly knew, that if the thing out there wanted to come in, it wouldn't need to break the door down. It would slip through the crack with its own breath. Moments passed. Then a voice spoke. Not loud, not screaming, just enough for him to hear. Hoarse, low, ancient as ash. You look just like your grandfather, Nathan. Nathan bit his lip until it bled. That voice didn't belong to anyone he knew. It sounded like it belonged to time itself, drifting through the walls, trapped between memory and the present. He gripped the bat tightly, struggling not to scream. Just stay quiet. The police were coming. Everything would be fine. That's what logic told him. But his heart believed otherwise. It believed that if he waited just a few seconds longer, whatever was outside would slip through the keyhole and live inside his mind forever. Suddenly, the back door of the inn slammed shut. Everything went still. Nathan waited a few more minutes, then cracked his eyes open and peeked out. No one was there. No more footsteps. No more whispers. Only the sound of his own breath and the wind howling through the small window vent above. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. Nathan didn't clearly remember how he managed to open the door, just the flashing red and blue lights shimmering across the snowy yard like a fever dream. They checked every corner. No signs of forced entry. No intruder. The storage room was securely locked. The upper floor was empty. Room 207, according to the officers, hadn't even been opened in years. Nathan's mother returned the next morning. He told her everything, every single detail. She stood silent for a long time, then whispered, "Room 207 was your grandfather's room. Back when he was alive. He died in there. You were just a little boy then. You probably don't remember." He didn't answer. A few days later, while helping his mother clean the storage room, Nathan stumbled upon an old photograph. The colors had faded, but the image remained clear. A man standing in front of room 207, barefoot, his face half lost in shadow. That night, Nathan didn't sleep. He sat in his room, eyes locked on the security camera feed pointed at the upper hallway. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the hallway light flickered once, and the door to room 207, the one that had been locked for years, gently shifted, not violently, just enough to remind him that it had never truly left. Sunset stretched across the asphalt, staining the road and autumn foliage with a deep red hue. The wind carried the scent of wood smoke and decaying leaves. Lena Crawford had just filled up her tank at the only gas station still operating within a 20-mile radius. She'd just finished her shift at the convenience store, the taste of lukewarm coffee and sticker glue still clinging to her throat. An engine rumbled behind her. An old silver pickup truck, windshield caked with dust, pulled up beside her. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a flannel shirt with torn sleeves, his long hair matted in greasy clumps, as if water hadn't touched it in days. He smiled, not the friendly kind. "Sorry, do you know the way to Vermont Power Station number 9? Question mark. Lena blinked in surprise. "That place has been abandoned." "Yeah, I'm doing a survey." He held up a thick notebook, its pages yellowed and curled. No company logo, no name. Lena pointed in the direction. The man repeated her directions back to her, as if memorizing them, then nodded. "Thanks, Lena." She froze. "It's on your hat," he smirked. "I guessed right." She forced a smile and climbed into her car. The entire drive home, she kept checking her rearview mirror. No one there. Until just before she reached the turnoff to the dirt road leading to her house, he appeared in the mirror. The pickup truck followed close behind, like a persistent shadow. But as she turned down the leaf-strewn trail toward her property, his truck kept going. No pause, no glance back. She let out a shaky laugh and told herself it was just a coincidence. That night, as Lena washed the dishes, she heard a faint sound coming from the edge of the woods behind her house. Wind? An animal? Number. It was a voice, raspy, low, coming from deep within the trees. Lena. Lena couldn't remember how long she had stood there. All she knew was that the figure among the pine trees hadn't moved. The light from the house didn't reach that far, but she could still see him. Tall, broad-shouldered, his entire form cloaked in a thick shadow like layers of ash. His head was tilted slightly, as if he'd been watching her, for a very long time. She slammed the window shut, locked it twice, and pulled the curtains. Her heart pounded like war drums inside her chest. But the strongest feeling wasn't fear, it was revulsion, clinging to her like something that had just touched her with its eyes. She called 911. The dispatcher's voice repeated the usual, "Stay inside." "Officers are on their way. But this time Lena didn't want to stay. She couldn't. She began to pack. A backpack with clothes. A kitchen knife was hidden in her coat pocket. Phone. Flashlight. She decided to leave the house, at least for the night. When Lena stepped outside, the darkness felt thicker. No insects. No wind. Only the sound of footsteps sinking into dead leaves behind her. She didn't look back. Climbing into her car, she jammed the key into the ignition, her hands trembling so hard she dropped it twice. The headlights flared on, and just outside the driver's side window, a face pressed against the glass. The man, now just inches away. He wore a gray cloth mask, covering the lower half of his face. His eyes, deep, hollow, reflected no light, only absorbed it, like black holes. She screamed, shifted into drive, and slammed the gas. The tires skidded in the mud, then caught traction with a shriek, flinging leaves and gravel. In the rearview mirror, she saw him. He didn't chase. He only stood there, head tilted, watching, as if memorizing how she ran. She didn't stop driving until she reached her grandmother's gate, locked, and all the lights in the house off. She didn't care. She screamed her grandmother's name, pounding on the door, crying. Neighbors turned on their lights. The police arrived in under 10 minutes. They checked the car, searched the trail. No one. But there was a handprint on the window, still fogged with the ghost of a breath. He didn't take anything, didn't break anything, didn't say a word, except for the one thing he left behind when he was spotted near her grandmother's gate. "I just wanted to see how you sleep." It seemed like everything ended the night Lena fled to her grandmother's house. Police increased patrols around her home. They reviewed footage from the gas station, confirmed that the man had appeared, had followed her. But he had no records, no identification, no valid license plates. He was like a hole patched together with flesh, real, but belonging nowhere. 3 days later, a special patrol unit searched the woods behind Lena's house. About half a mile past the backyard fence, they found a makeshift shelter built from plywood and plastic tarps, camouflaged with branches, nearly blending into the forest. Inside, a single filthy bed with a mud-stained quilt, an old analog camera, and hundreds of printed photographs covering every wall. All of them were of Lena. Lena is hanging laundry. Lena is reading on the porch steps. Lena sleeping in her bedroom, shot from a low angle as if placed on the floor right beside her bed. In the corner of the shelter was a wooden box. Inside were a jar of short-cut hair tied with a rubber band, an old ceramic mug, one Lena had lost 2 months earlier, and a notebook. The notebook contained meticulous entries, dates, times, what Lena wore, what she ate, even the times she slept, and what she dreamed about. The final page was written in a shaky, uneven hand, but the words were clear. "Tomorrow night will be when I step inside." Lena moved out that very day. She never came back. But a week later, while the house was being cleaned out for sale, the real estate agent found a fresh Polaroid tucked under Lena's pillow. In the photo, Lena was asleep on her side, hugging a pillow, the bedside lamp casting a faint, warm glow. The angle was low, tilted. Beneath the photo, written in blue ink, "You still sleep so peacefully." The snow began falling at 8 o'clock that evening, thick and silent, as if the sky was unloading white secrets onto the earth. The Watson family's wooden cabin, sitting alone on the edge of a small town in Maine, was one of the few places still lit, simply because Caleb's dad refused to throw away the old generator. Caleb Watson, 15 years old, was spending the weekend alone. His parents had gone to Boston to visit relatives, leaving behind a few instructions, some prepared meals, and one single rule: don't open the door to strangers, no matter who it is. At 11:07 p.m., while Caleb was playing video games in the living room, there was a knock at the door. Not frantic, not hurried, just two steady taps, knock knock, as if the person outside knew exactly what they were doing. He froze, lifted his head, heart tightening slightly. The front door had a small frosted glass pane. Through it, Caleb saw the outline of a person in a long coat, wearing a slouchy knit cap. He switched on the porch light. An elderly woman stood there, silver hair, wrinkled face, and a smile that looked glued to her skin. She stood motionless, hands behind her back, head slightly tilted. "Sweetheart, I'm lost," she said, voice dry like the winter wind. "My phone died. Could I please borrow yours for just a moment?" Caleb shook his head and replied quickly, "I can't open the door. My parents told me not to." The woman smiled wider, but her eyes didn't. They remained flat, cold, staring through the glass like they could force him to undo the lock. "It's quite rude to refuse an old lady on a snowy night, young man," she said. Caleb swallowed hard, fists clenched. He stepped back and pulled the curtain shut. But even behind the fabric, he could still feel her gaze, persistent, pressing, like an invisible hand resting on the back of his neck, cold and waiting. Caleb pulled the curtain shut quickly, but not quickly enough to forget the look in the woman's eyes. It was as if she had known exactly what he would do and had only been waiting for him to confirm it. He returned to the living room, trying to sit down and resume his game, but the blue glow from the screen now made the room feel artificial and unfamiliar. Everything was too quiet. Even the generator's hum sounded more like a whisper than a roar. About 5 minutes later, the sound began. Clink. Caleb frowned. Clink, clink. It sounded like someone lightly tapping a piece of metal against a pane of glass. Not hard, not hurried, but rhythmic, intentional. Slowly, he turned his head toward the kitchen window, which faced the row of pine trees behind the house. The curtain was still drawn, but the tapping continued. Caleb stood up, each step careful, as if afraid his footsteps might shatter something unseen. He leaned in, gently pulling the curtain aside. No one there, only the snow falling, silent as ash from a dead sky. He shivered and let the curtain fall back, but when he turned around, clink. This time it was the dining room window. He rushed over, again, nothing. But there, in the snow beneath the eaves, were footprints, small ones, clear enough to tell. They were barefoot. Caleb locked every window, slammed every latch shut, and turned on every light in the house, as if brightness alone could keep out whatever was out there, or, perhaps, what was already inside him. Just as he was standing breathless in front of the main door, the doorbell rang. This time, it was a man, younger than the woman from before, wearing a leather jacket and a beanie. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp and awake. "Kid," he said, voice hoarse, "my mom's gone missing. She's got memory issues. Have you seen her?" Caleb opened the small side window just enough to hear him. "Yes, she was here about 10 minutes ago." "Thanks," the man nodded. "Did you see which way she went?" Caleb hesitated a second, then pointed randomly toward the woods. "Out back. Maybe she wandered into the trees." The man gave a quiet thanks, turned, and walked away. Slow, upright, like a robot. Never looked back. Caleb watched him carefully. There were no footprints in the snow. Caleb stood frozen behind the door. He kept watching the direction the man had gone, but his figure gradually vanished into the snow and white mist, leaving no footprints, no sound of footsteps, not even a backward glance. He no longer knew what frightened him more, the way the man had disappeared like a mirage, or the fact that he had believed, even for a second, that they were just ordinary people. Caleb shut the door, locked it, and bolted it with all 3 latches. He turned on every light in the house, including the floodlight over the backyard. The yellow glow spilled onto the snow, shimmering like grains of dead salt. The night was halfway through. The kitchen clock read 2:19 a.m. Caleb sat curled up on the sofa, hugging a pillow tightly, eyes fixed on the glass kitchen door. The only thing that still made Caleb feel real was the sound of the old generator sputtering outside. But then, that too stopped. A short burst, then silence. Everything fell into darkness. For the first 5 seconds, Caleb thought he would lose his mind, but he didn't scream, didn't cry. He simply walked silently to the drawer and pulled out the flashlight. When the beam lit up the kitchen wall, he flinched. A jagged message was scrawled across the wooden paneling in something dark, trailing in a smeared line, like someone had dipped their finger in ink and dragged it across the wood. "We don't like the lights." Caleb backed away. The flashlight trembled in his grip, its beam shaking across the wall. He turned to run upstairs when a soft laugh echoed, very close, right behind him. He whipped around. No one. But the kitchen cabinet was wide open, and on the floor, something had just been placed there. An old silver comb, worn, with several strands of white hair caught in its teeth. Each strand still glistened slightly with dampness, as if it had only just been used. By the time the police arrived, morning had come. The snow had stopped falling, but the sky remained a dull gray, as if the night hadn't fully left the town. Caleb sat huddled under a blanket, eyes locked on the kitchen door, where the silver comb still lay silently, either a piece of evidence or a message. 2 officers searched the entire house. No signs of forced entry, no footprints around the home, except for Caleb's own from the day before. No comb, no writing, no cabinet left open. "You probably had a nightmare," the younger officer said gently, like consoling a child. "The power went out, snow was falling, you were alone. It's easy to imagine things." Caleb said nothing. He didn't need to convince them, because in the pocket of his hoodie, he was gripping the silver comb. It was ice cold, the metal course beneath his fingers, and where his thumb touched it, there was a faintly etched line of text, barely engraved. "Mom is always with you." He didn't remember picking it up, didn't remember reaching down, or whether it had simply appeared in his hand. The next day, Caleb moved back to the city with his parents. They sold the house a few months later. The new owners, an elderly couple, renovated the place completely, replaced the doors, and installed cameras. 3 weeks after moving in, the wife called the police. She said that every night at exactly 11 p.m., an old woman with silver hair would stand on the porch. She didn't knock, didn't speak. She just stood there, smiling. The police came, checked the security footage. There was nothing. Only the wind rustling through the pine trees. And exactly at 11 p.m., the porch light flickered and died. You've just heard 3 stories. No one went missing. No one died. But no one was ever quite the same again. And the scariest part isn't what they saw. It's the feeling that it is still out there, lurking in the dark, waiting to be named. If you're watching this at night, check your window, glance in your rearview mirror, and ask yourself, are you alone? If you want to hear more chilling stories like these, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment with the scariest story you've ever heard or experienced. Who knows? Your story might be the next one we tell. See you again on the next sleepless night.